What is up, guys? My name is Lex at the Hard Rock, playing 5-10 no limit. First hand, King Jack of Hearts from under the gun. There's a $25 straddle. I raise to $60 and get 4 callers, so we're 5 ways to our first flop here, which comes out Jack Deuce Deuce, making top pair with a king kicker. I would say we basically have the nuts on this board. With no one 3-betting me pre-flop, I don't think anyone's going to have an overpair on this board, and also it's pretty hard to flop trips. Not many people play deuce X hands. Anyway, I lead out for $75 and everybody folds back over to the under the gun straddler, who made the call last to act pre-flop, and instead of calling 75, he puts in a raise to $225. He has about $700 left, and like I said, I'm pretty sure we have the best hand here. He could be doing this with a weaker jack like Jack 10, Jack 9, even a pocket pair below the jack like 8s, 9s, or 7s. So I make the call here, seeing the queen of spades on the turn. The action's back over on him, and he snap jams all in for around $700, and we're in a pretty interesting spot. With an overcard coming out to the jack, I don't think he would be jamming all in now with an ace jack, Jack 10 holding. I don't think he would play trip deuces this fast anyway, so I just put in the call. It's less than a pot size bet all in. We run out the board one time. We see the 5 of diamonds on the river, and he shows ace jack for a pair of jacks with an ace kicker, which is going to beat our pair of jacks with a king kicker, and we get completely owned our very first hand and double this guy up. I do think that this hand is a cooler, given the fact that my opponent only had $1,000, but we actually got let off easy with the queen coming on the turn. If there was no queen on the turn, I think it's easier to double this guy up, but once the queen comes out and he jams all in, I think I could be finding a fold. Not really happy with the way I played that hand. I add on to my stack another $1,000 and move on to the next hand where I have 5-6 of hearts in early position. I raise it up to $30. I get a call from the button and a call from the big blind and flop a gut shot on a 10 high board. Backdoor flush draw. I think it's a board I definitely should be continuing on, so I bet out $50 here. A sticky player on the button makes the call and the big blind makes the fold. Turn queen of hearts. I think it's a great card for me to continue to barrel. It's an overcard to the 10 and also gives me more equity. Now I have a gut shot to a 4 and a 6 high flush draw. I continue to put on the pressure here. I make it $150 with hopes of getting there on the river or potentially bluffing my opponent off at 10. The player on the button is very sticky, loves to call, which is good when you have value, but bad when you're trying to bluff. So we're trying to get there, which we do. It's the 9 of hearts giving us a backdoor flush. It's also a great card. It can improve him to some 2 pairs and some straights that he called with on the flop. So instead of going small here to get called by a 10, I decided to go big, hoping he has those 2 pairs or straight hands. I bet about a pot-sized bet of $550 with the action back over on him. I would be disgusted if he put in a raise here, but he does not. He talks to me a little bit and then eventually shows a jack of diamonds and folds, so I show the 5 of hearts and we take this one down. If you guys have been following along with my videos, you know I was on quite a downswing, losing over $18,000 in the last 6 weeks. But since I've been back here in Florida, since the WSOP in Vegas, I've been running pretty good, up about $10,000 so far. But on this session, we're stuck about $1,000 still. So we're going to try to get that back in this hand with King, Queen of Hearts. It's a straddle pot. I raise to 60. The button calls 60. Straddle calls 60. 3 ways. King 8-3, 2 clubs, flopping top pair. When it checks to me, I bet $75. The same sticky player from last hand now snap raises me to $375. So an interesting spot. He can have all the 2 pairs, King 8, King 3. He can also have sets, 8s and 3s, but he shouldn't have Ace King either. This player doesn't bluff that often, but he may be overvaluing a top pair holding like King 10, King Jack, or King 9. So I make the call. The turn is the 10 of hearts, a pretty bad card. Now we're losing to King 10. I check and he instantly checks back and we river trips with the King of diamonds. Now we have to decide whether we should lead out here or if we should check. So when my opponent raises on the flop, I think he's going to have a top pair holding a lot of the time or a club flush draw. When he checks back the turn, we can discount him from having sets and 2 pairs. He would most likely continue with all those hands on that 10 of hearts turn. When the river's the king It's an interesting spot. I think the best play here is to check over to him. If he does have a busted flush draw, maybe he'll try to turn that hand into a bluff. If he has a weaker king, like king 7, king jack, or king 9, he's definitely going to bet trips, and then we could probably put in a check raise. With the action over on him, he does put out a bet. He makes it $675. So we're facing a $675 river bet, holding trip kings with a queen kicker in a single raise pot after getting raised on the flop. Like I said before, if he had 2-pair or a set on the turn, he would most likely always be continuing. So once he checks back the turn, I can discount him from having full houses here on the river. He didn't 3-bet me pre-flop, so he shouldn't have ace-king. So I think his likely holding here, betting $675, is either a bluff or a hand like king jack, king 9, or king 7. So against that range, with around $2,500 left in his stack, I think we got to go for value here on this river. I don't want to go too big though and scare him off with his weaker king X hands. So I put in a check raise. I make it $1,300. This exact kind of hand is what I've been working on lately in No Limit Hold'em, is trying to go for a thin value on the river against recreational players. A lot of the time I would just call this $675 bet, afraid that I may be beat and not want to risk him possibly having me beat here by check raising the river. Sometimes you're going to value own yourself and he's going to play a really sneaky 2-pair or set like this, but we can't be afraid of monsters under the bed. After going over the hand, I feel like we have the best hand here. So I put in a raise, $1,300 back over on him, and he goes into the tank for a while. He has $2,500 left after that raise, and he keeps picking it up in his hand like he wants to go all in. If he does jam all in for $2,500 total, we are probably beat, but luckily it doesn't come to that. However, he doesn't pay us off. He eventually folds, which I don't think he had a king. I think he would pretty much call with that hand. So he probably either had an 8, a 10, or a bluff, but either way, we get back all that money that we lost in the first hand, and now we're up a couple $100 on the session. I don't exactly know how much I'm in for because after I lost the first hand, I just grabbed some chips out of my bag and threw them on the table, but right now we have a $4,500 stack, looking to keep running it up. It's a straddle pot. In this hand, we're on the button with a beautiful ace jack of clubs, suited Broadway cards. You've got to love it. Early position, fun player limps for $25. I raise to $100. Straddle folds, and the fun player makes the call. Heads up to ace, 5, 8, 2 diamonds. He checks. I bet $100, and he calls. Turn 4 of diamonds brings in 5, 6 for a straight and the flush draw. So when he checks, I check this one back. River card 8, and when he checks again, I'm going to go for value. I bet $225, and he folds before the chips even hit the felt, and we take this one down. Before we move to the next hand, I want to thank you guys again for showing up every single week to watch my videos. We just made it to 45,000 subscribers. I've been making videos now for about 1.5 years, and I want to tell you guys thank you again. I really appreciate it. Watching me win, watching me lose. You guys are here for the journey. Let's move on to the next hand. After not picking up any playable hands for over an hour, I look down at 5 of clubs, 5 of hearts, a nice little pocket pair here. We call a $50 raise over a limp, going set mining here, and we find one. Ace, 5 deuce, 2 hearts, making middle set on an ace high board, which is great. I'm hoping one of my opponents has a top pair holding a flush draw or something they can call me with when it checks to me. I bet $50. Early position limper makes the call, but the initial raiser folds. Turn king, I size up to 200, and this time he folds, and we win. A lot of the videos I've been posting lately, I've had some huge wins or some huge losses, picking up massive hands, either getting coolered myself or taking down huge pots, and so far this session, we really haven't played too many big pots or picked up that many big hands, and I do think this is a great example of what poker is like most of the time. It's not always huge pots, big hands, and coolers back to back. A lot of the time it's just boring, you're sitting there waiting for a hand, and that's how today's session's going. Another hour goes by with no playable hands until we get a suited Broadway with Jack 10 of clubs, folds all the way to the small blind who asks if I want to chop, and I never chop at these time rate games, so he calls $10 in the small blind. I raise it up to $25 more in the big blind with Jack 10 of clubs, and he makes the call. This particular player had been playing very passive throughout the evening, a lot of check calling and a lot of check folding, really not showing too much aggression. So we're going heads up here with a suited Jack 10 of clubs. The flop is queen high with a 10. We flop middle pair. He checks. I bet $30 and he calls. Turn card is a 9 of clubs, giving us a straight flush draw now. Any 8 of clubs or king of clubs will give us a straight flush, and he leads into me for $75. A lead on this turn card doesn't make too much sense, especially because we have a jack, so we block him from having some jack X straights like king jack or jack 8. So I consider raising, but I don't think that's the best idea. I think calling is fine. We do have a ton of equity. We could try to hit one of our many outs, any 8, king, club, 8 of clubs, king of clubs, but not this time. 3 of hearts, the biggest brick in the deck, and he snap leads out again for $300. Okay, so to recap this hand, he called in the small blind, then he check called the flop, led out on the turn, and now blast off for a $300 bet on this river. I feel like we're beat here a lot of the time, but what hands would play like this? It's possible he could have turned a straight and let out, but I feel like a lot of the time when people turn big hands like 2 pairs or straights, they look to try to check raise as well. So when he leads out here, I do think he could be doing this with a queen X hand, something like queen jack, maybe queen 8 or queen 7, but he would never be betting $300 here on the river with just a single pair queen. So versus this sizing of a $300 bet, he's saying he has a straight or a 2 pair hand. He shouldn't have a set with queens or 10s because those hands would raise pre-flop. So I don't know what to do here. I feel like folding's the best option, especially holding the jack of clubs in our hand. We want him to have some jack X holdings here, like the flush draws and straight draws that miss. But I get sticky. I go with my gut. I feel like he's probably bluffing here, so I put in the call. He tells me he has a pair and shows 3-7 of diamonds for a bottom pair of 3s for a busted flush draw, and our 10 is good. We take down a pretty big pot here, making a hero call with second pair. I've made some pretty sick hero calls within this last month here on the river, but after thinking about it a little bit more, I basically never fold on the river. I just always think people are trying to bluff me, which is great because I can pick off bluffs, but it's bad because a lot of the time people are just not bluffing on the river. I've made some pretty light calls and it's cost me a lot of money here in the past month, but luckily this time our read was right. We take this one down and our stack is up to $6,000, up almost $2,000 on the session. So far the day has been going pretty good. We make an error in the beginning, losing over a $2,000 pot, but since then we've been playing good, making some hands, calling off some bluffs, and things have been going pretty good. We do pick up some playable hands over the next hour and a half, but we lose every single pot that we play. We're also straddling, so each round I lose $35 as well. And after about an hour, I'm now up only $1,000 with around a $5,000 stack, moving into the last hand of the night. $25 straddle pot and under the gun, a very tight conservative player makes it $75, and versus his early position raise, ace queen is just a call. There's no way a 3-bet would be good here versus that range of hands that he's going to be raising from early position. The big blind player makes the call as well. 3 ways to an ace 10 jack board. I love the ace, but I don't really like the 10 and the jack. He can definitely be hitting 2 pairs and sets on this board and even straights from his under the gun raising range. So when he bets $75, I don't really like it, but I can never be folding top pair with a gut shot, so I make the call. Big blind makes the call as well. Turn card 7 of clubs does bring in 8-9 now for a straight as well. Big blind checks, and now the initial razor checks. I don't think he's going to be checking 2 pairs and sets on this turn, but I also have to worry about the big blind as well. He could have 2 pairs and sets. The under the gun initial razor could be trapping as well. I feel like with my ace queen, I'm going to be way ahead or way behind, so I check back this turn card, and the river is the queen of clubs, now giving me top 2 pair, but the backdoor flush gets there, and any king now makes a straight. Big blind checks, under the gun checks, and I don't really see much value in betting here, so I check back, and Early position shows pocket kings for a straight. We got lucky on the flop hitting an ace, and he got lucky here on the river hitting a queen. He ends up taking this one down. I'm always trying to analyze my play and look for spots to get better, which is one of the reasons I really like making poker vlogs. It allows me to go back through my hands a couple days later and figure out better lines of what I could have done better. In that last hand, holding ace queen on the turn, when they both check to me, I think I should just be betting there. I don't think enough people trap in this game for me to have to pot control and check that one back. A lot of people bet with their strong hands and check when they're weak. So I think I should be betting that turn, but sometimes you don't always make the right decision. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you don't. Kind of an interesting session, a little bit of swings, some ups and downs, some big pots, some medium pots, and some small ones. But after about 5 hours, we call it a night, end up racking up our chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out. All right, guys, that is it for this one. It's a beautiful evening here at the Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida. This is why I moved back to Florida, man. It is so nice. I love the greenery. I love the weather, the blue skies. Can't really beat it. But as for today's session, somewhat of a boring, uneventful session compared to the craziness I've been vlogging about in the last month or so. No huge all-in pots, no massive coolers or bad beats. Just kind of a boring poker session. Now, this is how poker is going to be a lot of the time. You're not just going to come in and pick up aces, kings, hit sets and flushes and full houses, or get coolered and lose a bunch of pots. You're just going to fold a lot of the time. You're going to win or lose small to medium-sized pots, and that's kind of how today went. In the beginning, I lost that first hand king-jack versus ace-jack. I think I should have found a fold on the turn. He's just not bluffing there very often, so that's the only hand I really regret the way I played it. But other than that, felt like I played pretty good, didn't get out of line, didn't punt off my stack. Felt like I played good, solid poker today. Made a tough call there with Jack 10 with second pair facing a $300 bet. And then the last hand, I got lucky against pocket kings, and then my opponent got lucky on the river. We lost kind of a small pot there. But as for the day, ended up profiting around $600. So I will take it. I'm gonna be back here in Florida for another couple weeks. There's a big tournament series coming here, Seminole Hard Rock, July 27th through August 9th. Got a ton of tournaments going on. It's going to be awesome. Should be a lot of people down here, as well as some big cash games as well. I'm going to be playing the $5,300 main event, which is going to be in early August. It's a huge buy-in tournament. Should be a massive field with a huge guarantee. I would say close to $1 million for first, if not more. I'm going to be selling action for that tournament. Go to my Instagram at LexoPoker, follow me there, and then be ready. I'm going to be putting stories out, selling action there for that tournament if you want to buy action. But that is it for this one. Oh, and I'm also going to Dallas, Texas on August 9th through August 12th. Going to be playing on the live stream at Texas Card House. Should be fun. I'm excited to get back to Dallas as well. But that is it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that like button. Comment down below if you have any questions, and subscribe to the channel. We just hit 45,000 subscribers. Thanks again to you guys showing up every single week, watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Until next time, I'll see you.